Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. I am finally getting back to my ranking palette series, which I'll be doing every single month. Fingers crossed, hopefully I can stay consistent with that. But ranking all of the palettes that I've been trying the last month. Now some of these palettes I've had longer than others, but all of them are ones that I've been trying to consistently use the last couple of weeks or so here, and I finally have my thoughts to review them for you today in ranking style fashion. So if you're interested in seeing how I would rank the 10 eyeshadow palettes that I have been trying out over the course of the last month or so, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project painting content, palette theme content, or you just like to chit chat about makeup, I would love for you to consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the video. Before we get started, I will just say I will have my ranking my makeup playlist as well as my palette playlist down below. So if you like ranking videos or if you like palette content, there'll be more for you down in the description box. I do have 10 palettes to rank for you guys today, like I said in the introduction. And I will say I liked the majority of the palettes that I used. I do have one that was kind of a complete fail. And one thing I've been trying to do, so there's a couple of palettes that I didn't start doing this until like halfway through this month, but one thing that I do want to get to doing in these ranking videos or when I'm testing new palettes is really focus on using a palette to create an entire look, rather than sometimes I'll have like 7 palettes pulled out at a time and I'm reaching into a palette just for one shade. So I want to make sure when I am testing a palette for the first time or reviewing the palette, I want to try and just use that palette to create a full look. So I do have some looks to share with you today, and I'll do that going forward. I will also have swatches of all these palettes in case you're interested in seeing swatches. But I've noticed that at the beginning of the year, I was just like, I never was creating a full look from just one palette. So it kind of helps me review the palette more as well, just kind of thinking through whether or not I feel like it has a cohesive color story. Can I create an entire look from it, etc. So those are some of the things I'm going to try and include in these ranking videos, but let's get into it. We're going to start with my least favorite, my number 10. This was a fail for me and I was really disappointed in this palette. This one is from Voss. It's the All of You Forever palette, and I was really excited for this palette because I think that this color story is really, really beautiful. But when I show you guys the picture of the look that I created, you'll see this was such a patchy mess. I really struggled with the mattes in this palette, and I took so much time to blend this look. It's not like I tried to like slap a look together in 10 minutes. I probably spent a good 45 minutes to an hour on my look that day. Now I will say I do think that the foiled shades or the metallic shades in this palette are really beautiful. I'm planning to do a palette declutter, and I feel like I may end up decluttering this one right away just because I don't love the quality of the mattes. And even though I think the shimmers are pretty, I can't see myself reaching into this palette exclusively for the shimmers. Another thing that I do want to note is I do try and test every single shade in the palette at least one time before coming to review it. And I believe I have done that with this palette. So for me, this was a bust. I know so many people really like the Violet Voss formula, but I've never had good luck with Violet Voss. I have decluttered all of the Violet Voss palettes that I've tried out of my collection, and you may see me declutter this one upcoming too. I was considering keeping it around to do my like end of year palette ranking and rank every single palette, but I don't want to keep things in my collection just to review at the end of the year. I know a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers do that, but I just don't know if I want to do that for my life. Next up, I have the e.l.f. Electric Mood palette, and I wouldn't say this is a bad palette. The reason that I'm ranking this one at number 9 is simply because there are some good shades in this palette, and then there are some shades that are just plain duds. I was really excited to use the shade Shy, whatever this shade is right here. It's swatched really beautifully as well, but this does not pick up on a brush literally at all. Like, I would tap my brush in, put my brush onto my lid, and nothing would show up. So I have to use that shade with a finger. It's pretty with a finger, but I don't always love using my fingers like to put eyeshadow on. I will say I don't think that the blue shades are that impressive. Also, this like purple shade right here is kind of a dud. But a lot of the other shades are really nice. I really like these bottom 3 shades right here. I think they're really beautiful. I did create a look out of this palette, I think, that I'll share. that I did really enjoy. I think the mattes are nice. They're not like the best quality mattes in my collection, but overall I think it's a nice palette. I want to say that this retails for $14. If you like the color story, I would say maybe go for it, but I also feel like some of the pops of color, like those shades, are like the dud shades in this palette, so I don't feel like I could 100% recommend this palette. I'm not the biggest fan of e.l.f. like eyeshadows. I just feel like when it comes to the drugstore, I just don't love drugstore eyeshadow formulas. I'd rather just pay a higher price tag. That's just me personally, but I did think that this one was okay, and I think this will survive my palette declutter. So if that tells you anything, then maybe that tells you something. Next up, I don't think you can get this palette anymore. I got this for such a good deal. When I logged on to the website to see if this palette was still available, I didn't think I would be able to get my hands on it, and then when I saw that it was on sale for $13, I almost pooped my pants out of excitement. It is the KKW Beauty Camo palette, and I honestly didn't care if the quality of this was good. I just love camo. I always like joke and say like, if I could have gotten married in camo, like I would have, which technically I could have, but like, you know, I just think the packaging is so cute. I do really like, this is another one that I do really like, the foiled shades or the metallic shades in here. I think they're really pretty. I love the greens, and I kind of love like the mix of like the satin, like cooler tones as well. I just struggled with some of the mattes in this palette as well. I really struggled with this green shade. In fact, I remember I was creating my look with this palette, and at one point I wiped all of my makeup off and started over because I was just so unhappy with the way that some of the things were blending. I did really struggle with this shade as well. I don't know if maybe I needed to clean my brushes or what, but was not uber impressed with the way that the shadows blended together. If it was like a one and done, like reach in for one matte shade and be done, I feel like I would be fine, but it was the way that the mattes were blending together where I was really struggling. Again, I think that the shimmer shades in this palette are really beautiful, and packaging is 10 out of 10 in my opinion, but I could not rank this one any higher than the 8th spot in this video. All right, everything 7 and above, I really like. Like, I'm so happy to have these in my collection, recommend them, etc. But obviously this is a ranking video, and things just like, they have to be placed somewhere. So coming in at number 7, I have this new one from Huda Beauty. This is the Wild Jaguar palette. I haven't even hauled this on my channel yet, but the moment that these came in, I ordered these off the Huda Beauty website. I sat down all weekend and created looks all weekend with the 3 that I picked up, and I had so much fun doing it. So this is what the Jaguar palette looks like, and this is the one that I was most excited for. Like, this is the one I knew if I could only have chosen one palette to purchase, this would have been the one that I bought, and it's coming in like last of the 3 that I tried. So my thing with this one is you're obviously going to be pretty limited to a deeper, more sultry look, which I'm not complaining about, but it's not going to be like an everyday, like just like one shadow and done sort of palette. Not necessarily something that I would reach into to create work looks just because it's a deeper palette. I do like having this because my Smoky Obsessions palette I feel like is getting much older in my collection, and I feel like this could potentially be like a good like replacement for it. I still don't see myself decluttering the Smoky palette because I love it so much, but I think this is pretty. I love the foiled shadows. I will say that this like textured shade is more of a lid topper, and this is like a chunkier purple. I wasn't super impressed with this purple shade. And then my last gripe with this one is I felt like the mattes were just a little bit patchy, just a little bit. Like they just took a little extra effort in blending, nothing like overwhelmingly difficult, but just didn't blend as easily as the other 2 Huda palettes that I'm going to be sharing with you later in this video. I did really enjoy these 2 shades. I think the palette is beautiful. This one just took me the most effort, and you're very limited to just a very deep sultry look in my opinion. Still would recommend this, still like very happy to have this in my collection. Some of the Huda Obsessions launches have been very hit or miss. Like, I was not impressed at all with the Haze collection, and then the chocolate collection I only picked up 1 palette, but it was just okay in my opinion. This Wild collection out of the Obsessions line, I've been really impressed with, so I'm very happy about that. But that is my number 7. Coming in at number 6, I have the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. Now this is one that has been in my collection for quite a while, and I will say I have not tried every single shade in this palette, but I'm getting really close, and I felt like it was time to review this. We're getting into fall. I don't see myself reaching for this palette a ton for the fall just because it is more colorful. You got your pastels, etc. This is a really good quality palette in my opinion. I think that the pastels perform really well. They're vibrant on the eyes. They're not like super chalky and they don't blend away into anything or into like nothing, which sometimes you can get with pastel palettes. My only complaint is I wish there were some deeper colorful shades in the matte formula in this palette rather than just like the deep brown up here. Just because I am someone who I know I was complaining about like this being like you're only gonna get deep looks. I do like to have a deep shade for like my outer corner, and that's just something I feel like is kind of missing in this palette. I will say I absolutely love all of the shimmer like metallic shades in this palette. You've got some different textures and I think they're all really, really beautiful. I love that you also do have like neutrals in this palette, so you could reach in and create a very neutral look with this palette as well. I think it's beautiful. Very excited to continue to play with this, potentially for like the top 2 neutral rows this fall, and very excited to pull this out again next spring summer. I think it's a really nice quality palette. Would recommend. I've been really happy with that. Coming in the middle at number 5, I have this one. This is the 90s Remix Dance palette from BH Cosmetics. This is what this one looks like. It's another kind of pastel / neon colorful palette, but you do have a row of neutrals. I was going back and forth between these two, and the reason I put this one above the Glamlite is sometimes less shades is just easier for me, and when I look into this palette I feel like because of the way that it's laid out, it's easier for me to like think of a look that I want to create with this one, and I also can just go in here for like a very quick simple look and just reach into the top row of neutrals. The pastels again in this palette, so good. Also, this palette is significantly less than this one, costs significantly less, so I was really curious to see if the quality would be good on this, just because I want to say it was like $18 or $20, and I think the pastels perform really, really nice. They give a good amount of like pigment and color payoff, especially being that they're like pastels but also neons in a way. I don't know if that's like an oxymoron. Would it be? I'm not sure. And then the shimmers are outstanding. I think that they are beautiful, super high impact, super high shine metallic, and I'm really happy with this one as well. Coming in at number 4, I have this one from ColourPop. This is the Lush Life palette. When this first launched, I was so excited about this, but then I stopped myself from buying it, and then I think it was Angie who used this on her channel, and I was like, okay, like I need to pick this palette up. This is what this one looks like. It's such a fun palette. I was so excited for this one specifically for this green shade. And that's why I was like, okay, do I really want to buy this palette? Because I really just want like one green shade. But I love just about everything in this palette. The look that I created with this palette that I'll be sharing with you is very much outside of my comfort zone, but I had so much fun with it. So my family and I live really close to this candy shop. It's like a block away. In this cute little downtown area, and we walked to the candy store when I was wearing this palette, and I got so many compliments on like my eyes looking super blue when I was wearing it, and I just really enjoyed this. I also can create neutral looks with this palette as well, so it's a very functional palette for me. I'm very happy with this one. Definitely would recommend that one. Coming in at number 3 is another one of the Huda palettes. This one is the Wild Tiger palette. This is what this one looks like. I'm really excited to pull this palette out for the fall time. I just included this in my fall palette rotation video. I love the oranges and the yellows in this palette, and the look that I created with this, I was truly obsessed with. This pink shade in the middle, I love so much. You're definitely going to get higher impact if you wear this with the glitter glue. You don't have to, but the impact you get with a glitter glue is just so freaking beautiful. I am so excited to continue to play with this palette. Obviously, I feel like my looks are going to be pretty similar, being that it's just like a 9-pan palette, but I also feel like there is a good range and good depth with this palette as well. I could go light, I could go dark. I didn't have any issues blending any of the shades in this palette. I thought it was really beautiful, and I'm so happy to have this one in my collection. This one is, I believe, currently exclusive to the Huda website, which is why I personally ordered mine on the website. Now I'm like, should I get the 4th one? Because I've been super impressed with the 3 that I tried. Coming in at number 2, speaking of the 3 that I tried, I have the Wild Python palette. And this is the palette that I was considering not purchasing this and just getting the Tiger and the Jaguar, but I thought I would have some fun with color and pick this one up. And I will say, I think this is the one that will get the least amount of use out of the three. However, I feel so inspired when I reach into this palette, and I feel like there's such a wide range of looks that I can create with just these 9 shades, and I'm so excited to continue to reach into this one. That's why I had to rank this one the highest. I also really loved the way that my look turned out when I first used this palette, the one that I'll be sharing with you. It was something I wasn't sure would come together just because I obviously was stepping outside of my comfort zone, but I love the way that it turned out. I used almost every single shade. I think I used every shade except for this coral shade when I created that look as well. So I just had so much fun with this one. I had to rank this one at number 2. And then coming in the top spot is one that I didn't think I was going to purchase, but when I purchased the ColourPop Lush Life palette, I was like, you know what, I'll get free shipping. I'll order the ColourPop Cabana Club palette because I had done a double take, but then talked myself out of it, but then talked myself back into it so I didn't have to pay for shipping. This is what this palette looks like. This is so good. The quality in this is like the top-notch ColourPop formula. I know sometimes you're not getting like the best quality with ColourPop, and then sometimes you just get like outstanding. This is outstanding quality. I love this palette so much. I've had so much fun even playing around with like the few colorful pops in this palette, which I didn't think I was going to get a ton of use out of. And this is a palette that even when I finished like my testing for it, I wanted to continue to reach for it, which is how I knew like this was a palette that I was really loving. I love the like pop of yellow. This blue is so pretty. I love the blue so much. I wasn't a huge fan of the Malibu Barbie palette. I just didn't feel like the quality was great on that, but I was missing the blue out of that palette. So this was a good replacement for that. I love the metallics in this, and I'm just so happy with this palette. So had to rank this one at number 1, but that is going to wrap it up for today's ranking palette video. I would love to know, what palettes have you recently been testing out, trying, purchased? What are you loving? What are you not loving? I do obviously have some palettes that I am testing for next month, which I'm really excited about. I'll be excited to see what new palettes release. I'm trying to decide if I want the Natasha Denona Mini Retro palette. I was a little bit disappointed in the range of shades for that palette just because I love my Mini Retro so much. I feel like they could have done more with the color story in that palette, but regardless, I'm sure I'll probably end up picking that one up. And then I also really am interested in the Urban Decay Cyber, whatever, the new Urban Decay palette. Very interested in that, but would love to hear your guys' feedback down below. Is there anything else you want me to include in these ranking videos? And are there any palettes you're interested in me picking up and reviewing for you guys? Thank you so much for sticking around to watch today's video, for supporting my channel as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.